Today, I'll tell you the story of the Lost Book of Prophecies. This prophetic book was a mysterious tome full of stories and future events. Of course, many people craved this book, wishing to glimpse their futures. But no person, after obtaining this amazing book, ever found happiness. The reason? The book held frightful secrets not meant for people's eyes. That book came to be known as the Dark Prognosticus and was sealed away. This is the tale of that forgotten book's last owner. It is a tale of love.
Well, that's everything. Man, I can't believe I'm already leaving for college. It's like just yesterday I was sitting there watching Mario plushie videos and drinking Strawberry Quick. Oh, yeah, okay, that was yesterday, but okay, whatever. I still got some time before I gotta hit the road. So, what to do? I really shouldn't unpack my gaming junk. But luckily, the part of my brain that calculates the consequences of my actions got damaged back in April, so we're all good. Alright. What to play? Alright. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger, this one. So the game opens and it's pretty much like your textbook Mario game opening. Mario and Luigi are chilling and then it turns out Peach got kidnapped and then you gotta go to Bowser, right? But this opening is purposefully bland and cliche, and it's flipped on its head with the introduction of...
Guess who? It's you. It's me! Goodbye!
So yeah, everyone's gone and then this pride flag butterfly pops up and transports you to an alternate dimension. So you meet this guy, Merlin, who I still don't know if he's the same Merlin from the first game, but that's a game theory for another day, and it turns out Count Bluck has created a void that will consume all worlds using the Chaos Heart, and the only way to stop him is by collecting the Pure Hearts. Now the Pure Hearts at first may seem like this fancy, shiny, magic MacGuffin tool in any video game, but they're actually central and also symbolic of the game's main theme. That being love. Let's start off with the first Pure Heart that Merlin gives us, the red one. For this one, we'll have to delve into some color theory. Red symbolizes action, desire, and generally very proactive words, which is fitting since you're taking action by starting your adventure. Red is the most common color associated with hearts, so it's fitting that the basic first color is your introduction into the Pure Hearts and their ties to the central theme of love. The first Pure Heart is there to introduce the concept of love. The blanket idea of the game's theme of love will later be expanded on throughout the game. So Merlin gives us the first Pure Heart to start the game, which allows us to activate this pillar, which opens the door to... also there's a scene of the villains meeting up, but I kind of don't have anything to say about that, so... So we're dropped into the first level, and the thing you've realized by now is, wow, this is absolutely nothing like the first two Paper Mario games, which, yeah, it isn't. I just wanted to mention that because I don't plan on basing this game's value or criticizing it through the lens of the first two. Those are great games, don't get me wrong, but this one is very much its own separate beast and I'll be judging it as so. So you're put in this level with the goal of getting dimensional powers from whatever this guy is, alright? So you break into his house, play peekaboo with this invisible door, and meet...
Vestuvius.
Tip, don't actually collect any coins before you meet him. Vestuvius is a filthy capitalist and will take all your coins that you have in your person. Just collect the coins after you get the dimensional powers. And now, it's time to talk about flipping. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This is an amazing mechanic on paper. I honestly took it for granted as a kid, I think a lot of us did, but really think about how cool it is that you're able to go from full 2D to full 3D at the press of the A button. Every room in this game has to be programmed to work in both 2D and 3D, which I'm sure wasn't an easy feat. That must be like double the development time. I love flipping to 3D to see some sort of cool optical illusion, and it makes some really neat puzzles too, actually. And outside the puzzles, it definitely has its uses in combat, mostly for evasive maneuvers. But the thing is, it really felt like they made an amazing mechanic, but didn't know what to do with it. It's not completely unutilized, but it felt like they could center an entire game around just this ability alone. It's that good. I just wish they did more with it, but even then, the flippability we have now isn't without its faults. For one, jumping around in 3D is honestly kind of annoying, since you have to do 3D movement with the Wiimote's D-pad, and I can tolerate that. I played Mario 64 DS with the D-pad just fine, so okay, I'll let that one pass. But the real issue is this fucking meter. Leave me alone! This meter is the absolute bane of my existence. If you spend too long in 3D, the game will make you take damage, and I get it, you shouldn't be able to stay in 3D forever, that'd be broken. but at the same time, it feels like the game is actively discouraging you from exploring and trying to find secrets in 3D. There's so many times where I'm trying to finish something in 3D before the meter runs out and it just screws me over. Honestly, half the time I just tank the hit because it's better than just having to slowly wait for the meter to fill back up. It's so annoying. Alright, look, I know it sounds like I hate the game right now, but I swear, the flipping mechanic is cool, alright? I just need to let that out early on. Besides that, the rest of the level is pretty simple and standard, and honestly, that's fine. This is the first level, alright? The game just wants to ease you into the feel of it, and that's not a bad thing. A lot of games do that. Besides that, it introduces this cool power-up where you get a bunch of mini 8-bit Marios and the one where you become a big 8-bit Mario. But besides that, the level is pretty linear. Also, there's this part where there's like a bunch of squigs all in this one area, so you can just jump on them over and over and over again to farm a crap ton of score points. It's just fun. That's it. If the first level was introducing you to the basic gameplay, then this chapter introduces you to the second half of this game's core. It's dialogue, characters, and story. You trek the mountain and play around the flipping a bit more before you reach Yold Town. A majority of this chapter doesn't really involve too much puzzle solving, platforming, or combat. Most of it is just spent talking to the townsfolk, the mayor, and the gatekeepers to finish the chapter. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. Well, at least for the first playthrough, because honestly this chapter is kind of boring in subsequent playthroughs when you know the dialogue and everything. But you know what? The dialogue is nice. Definitely not the best this game has to offer, but it's cute. Besides that, there's also a shop and also this place where you can get your first pixel, Thorough. So basically, pixels are these little creatures that Mario can have that grant him a new ability. And for the first pixel, Thorough's actually pretty good. There's not anything crazy about him. There's no like crazy, awesome puzzle-solving mechanics he has or insane attributes. He's just simple but really versatile. Just throw him at something, and you can pick it up and throw it. Useful for combat, useful for puzzles, so overall, Thorough's chill, yeah, just do that. On the topic of pixels, I want to address a certain criticism for this game, that being that most of the pixels, aside from Tippy, are all very one-note. And yeah, to be fair, they are one-note. Aside from their beginning monologues, they just stay silent for the rest of the game. But I don't really mind that. Yeah, the first two games gave you partners that all had their own stories and personalities, but I don't think it's bad that this game chose to focus on other characters. Just because they don't focus on the pixels doesn't mean this game as a whole lacks character. Also, I didn't mention it, but yeah, Tippy's cool. I'll talk about their character more later on in this review, but in terms of gameplay, they're good. They basically fill the role of Goombella and Goombario from the first two games, being able to scan an enemy for their stats and abilities. It's mostly an optional tool, but I honestly think it's more useful in combat than Goombella and Goombario's tattle, since in this game you don't have to use an entire turn, you just have to, be able to get away for a bit and point the Wiimote at the screen. Unlike in the first two games where you actually had to stop, use a whole turn to use tattle on those enemies. It's a lot more convenient in this game. There are also some parts where you need to use Tippy's scan to reveal things like invisible doors and blocks, but yeah, that's really the extent of the puzzle solving abilities. Also, I like this little bit of foreshadowing from Thoru, but yeah, after you get hate crime by this bootleg Luigi, you enter. This level's actually really good. It hits you with a lot of new enemies and mechanics right off the bat. Enemies with projectiles, with defense, ones that inflict status effects, dimension hopping enemies, these flowers that alter the flow of time. I feel like this is a good time to bring up the game's combat. And basically,
the game is fun.
Now, do I think the game's combat system is better than the first two? Nah. The first two Paper Marios are honestly some of the best turn-based RPGs I've played. I respect Super Paper Mario's choice to simplify combat and remove the turn-based aspect for a more platformer-based combat system, but I don't think it matches up to the great mix of strategy and timing that the first two had. But I don't think I'm being fair because I'm basically comparing two different genres of games at this point. And what we have in this game is still great. It's just fun to stomp on shit and chain your jumps together. I probably should have more to say about this game's combat mechanics, but honestly, that's it. It's just simple fun. I think the combat in this level in general is really good. Sure, on paper, all these simple enemies don't seem like much, but with a combat system this simple, the little things really elevate the experience. You're not just jumping on enemies with targets on their head. You gotta dodge, you gotta flip to avoid attacks, you gotta use items to bypass their defense. You gotta use Thorough to pick up enemies and leave them stranded in three-dimensional space with no hope of escape. How does it feel to be trapped in this void? No one else, nothing left for you. Not even the comfort of there being an end. Just wait here, stuck in for a savior, even the Deathbringer that'll never come. Pathetic. pathetic. Also, the level's design is also more advanced than the first two. It's still pretty linear, but there's actually some backtracking, and unlike the first two levels, you actually have to work and find the solution to get to the next room. This is unlike the first two levels where you just reached the end of the room and the game handed you the exit to the next. Oh yeah, there's actual puzzles. It's nothing crazy like Portal, but I appreciate it. But then, the true Sigma male makes his appearance. But yeah, this level is actually pretty great. Up the ante, introduces a bunch of new mechanics, and O-Chunks was a pretty good boss fight and a really funny character. After looking at the solution for this puzzle because I'm a dummy and I don't know how to figure it out, we move on to... This level's okay. My main issue is that a lot of the mechanics introduced in the last level aren't really used in this one. I feel like any type of final boss dungeon type level, you need to test the player by using mechanics you've used in previous levels. It should be a proper test of what the player has already learnt. That's not to say this level isn't fun, it was enjoyable. I feel like the game design could have just been improved. Also, small thing, but I never got the purpose of like this quicksand in Mario games. Like, this doesn't even count as an obstacle, to be honest. It's not just this game, right? I feel like every platformer I've played that has this type of quicksand, it's like a completely useless obstacle. It doesn't detract from the level or anything, just why do you exist? I can easily just like, 2, jump out. That's not a, it's like a pitfall. You jump, you die, right? This, it's like, oh, it's like I'm slightly slower, I'm just gonna jump out. Like, come on. What's the point? Someone explain the point to me. But you reach the end and you meet this giant dude, Fractale, who, by the way, is really funny. Alright, it's just really good dialogue. I told you guys, this game has really funny dialogue. He's about to let us go and get the Pure Heart, but then Dementio, this motherfucking Tricky the Clown looking ass, shows up and tries to install Super Mario World free, online, no download, no virus, Punjabi safe on Fractale. This fight is mostly spectacle-based, but Fractale himself is probably the most complex model in the game, and flipping and seeing him zoom by in 3D is a pretty cool experience for the first time around. However, gameplay-wise, this boss is super simple. Dodge his first attack, flip into 3D for his second attack, jump on his back, and then wail on him with Thoro. You can actually do this all in one cycle, but I didn't know that, so now I feel kind of inferior. This fight has the same issues as the O-Chunks fight. He just doesn't do any damage. Bro, imagine waiting a whole millennium just to get cucked by some magic manlet installing chromium on you. He didn't even need to do the whole fucking clacky keyboard I'm in shtick. He just snapped his fingers. You'd think the ancients would install a Vast on it or something. Don't install in Vast, by the way. It's not a good software. So you enter this room, and the music just gives you that feeling, that amazing, reflective, historic soundtrack. It's not exactly sad, but it feels like you've stepped in an area of great importance, an area with history. You awaken Merlumia, a spirit of a member of the tribe of ancients. They tell you that the Pure Hearts were originally all parts of the Purity Heart, and were split and hid in different dimensions. The Purity Heart was made by them a long time ago to combat the prophesized tragedy which turned out to be the Void. It was made to be the essence of pure love made to counteract an entity of pure chaos. This monologue from Merlumia is really important. While there are hints of comedy in the scene, I think it does a really good job of emphasizing the importance of the events that are transpiring and hinting the player towards what happened in the past. This is the moment where the game establishes it's not just another Mario story. It's saying that it actually has a story and themes it wants to tell and show the viewer. After her speech, Merlumia shows us the Pure Heart, which is orange in color. While Chapter 1 is more of an extension of the first Pure Heart's themes, that being establishing love, orange does symbolize one thing: passion. We learn from Merlumia, and later in the game as well, that the ancients were very passionate, and of course passion is integral to love. If anything, they're almost the same. If you're passionate about your work, that probably means you love it as well. If you love your romantic partner, that means there's a great passion for them. So you get the Pure Heart and head back to Flipside. Overall, Chapter 1, while not a masterpiece, was definitely an enjoyable experience and established the basics of gameplay and themes well for the player. You wake up as Peach, and the UI, your items, they're all gone. You meet this Koopa and Hammer Bro, and you gotta get out of Bleck's castle. I really love this bit. It's purely cinematic. There's no way you can actually lose it, but I love the vibe this place has. It's like a kid seeing college, a stage you're not meant to be in yet. Also, rip these two. They were the real ones.
I remember that day well. The room was warm. The whole place was at peace.
You're awake at last?
Where am I? Is this a human's home?
Don't wiggle like that! I found you at the cliff base. You took quite a fall.
You're a human, correct? I don't repulse you? I'm of the tribe of...
Why would that matter? Anyone with a heart would not ignore an injured soul.
That was the day our paths crossed. That was the day our tragedy was set in motion.
Oh, Zam! Peach got the minor case of the deads, gotta go to that But yeah, you get to play as Peach now. She's pretty well balanced. Mario is faster and has flipping, making him better for a lot of situations, but Peach is far from bad. You have complete immunity from damage when ducking, and you have a floating jump. It's not just that you need the parasol for certain gaps, it comes to use in combat as well. Because, remember, chaining jumps is your main source of damage. There are other ways you can do damage, but always, jumping is your bread and butter. So having something that extends your airtime is actually a really nice mechanic. I like that. Peach definitely carves out her own niche when it comes to combat. That, and I love Peach's personality in Paper Mario games. She's just such a Peach is a girl boss, okay? She's a girl boss. What else can I say? I guess I should probably mention this before we head to the next chapter, but Flipside is a pretty cool hub world. Flipside, along with the rest of the stages, have that sleek, modern, internet geometric kind of look. I don't really know how the words to describe it, but it's definitely a completely different visual vibe than any of the other Mario games. There's a lot of different content that I'll talk about once we hit it, but one thing I will talk about right now is cooking. It's really simple, but I really love it. I really love just hauling all these items back to Flipside after I'm done with the chapter and just see what I can cook up. It's really fun. My sister used to love this shit, by the way. Like, she'd make me go back just to cook new recipes. That's all I gotta say. It's really nice, and it rewards the player's curiosity and willingness to experiment with better items. So yeah, on to... This level's probably my favorite in terms of just pure visuals. I'm a real sucker for those gold-orange sunset visuals. I love the shot where you can see the stars and the mansion from a distance. In terms of gameplay, it does a great job of letting you use Peach and get used to her toolset. But it doesn't exclude Mario. It uses mechanics introduced in 1-3 too. You go through these doors and you eventually find this dude, Boomer. Look, I've played this game twice with like 3 unfinished playthroughs, and I can't decide if Boomer is overpowered or not. Basically, you press 1 and Boomer can be placed as a bomb, and then can be detonated by pressing 1 again. Or, you can just let the fuse run out. So you can use it for blowing up holes and cracked walls. But what I really want to talk about is his combat applications. Double damage. That animation of placing Boomer may seem like a pretty big negative, but trust me, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. I guess it does kind of switch up your approach with the more trap setting up playstyle rather than just jumping. Also, I got my mind blown when I realized you can place Boomer, then switch to Thoru, and toss Boomer. So yeah, again, I don't really... Honestly, leave that down in the comments. Do you guys think Boomer's overpowered or not? Then again, wait, this is a review. Wait, I'm the one supposed to be deciding this shit. Okay, never mind, that was a dumb idea. Alright, next level. This level is really experimental. I feel like it's 1-2 done better. There isn't much platforming combat in this level, just like 1-2. But rather just exploring Merly's mansion and focusing on one character, Mimi. She tells you Merly's on the first floor, but it becomes apparent really quick that she's trying to mislead you into various traps in the mansion. I think it's a great level for establishing Mimi as a character, seeing her try to keep up her facade while trying to trick you at the same time. That is, unless you ignore her and just go to the top right room, jump on the spiked ceiling and get the key, skipping all the dialogue. That and all the mystery is kind of lost since you see her in the cutscene earlier. So, shut up. I like this level's puzzles and vibe. Next! You become an indentured servant. So you break this vase and now you gotta work off to pay Mimi's debt. This chapter is good at one thing. making you absolutely despise Mimi. Basically how this level works is that you go around various rooms and find other inmates who have info on how to finish the level faster. However, to do that, you need rubies, and to get rubies, you need to do hard manual labor. Boring, monotonous, manual labor. There's one thing making you hate a character through their actions in the story, but if you ask me, there's nothing more effective than making you hate them through gameplay. I have a special connection with this level especially because when I was a dumbass 8-year-old, right, I had no idea there were any shortcuts. I thought you had to get every single ruby the old-fashioned way. And now I can't look at that hamster wheel without having a PTSD flashback every single time. You can earn rubies by doing just plain old manual labor, but unlike this man, I'm not a masochist, so yeah, time to break through the chains of capitalism. So you gotta go get some codes for some rooms until you get enough for the code for the ruby vault, and then you find this chest with this dude Slim. And then you gotta use him to avoid the vault security system, and that's it. I'm serious, besides this, I think there's only like 1 or 2 other times I use Slim in the entire game. He's that useless. Even the one useful ability he has, making you invisible to enemies, is completely replaced by a later pixel in the game. So basically, Slim is lame.
Hello, capitalism. Capitalism broke.
I guess you can say that's how the. I guess you can say that's how the cookie crumbles.
So yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I love childhood trauma. So yeah, you gotta go through this maze level while Spider Mimi chases you, and it's great. The level labels all the rooms, so unlike a lot of maze levels in video games, there's a clear sense of where you are and how much progress you're making. And having Mimi actually chase after you throughout the level gives it some great tension. That, and it has some pretty cool enemies. You got Booze, and I mean, that's just a classic enemy. You got these funny eye guys from 64. You got these... So you had to search these restrooms to find Merle, and then Mimi comes bursting in and commits identity theft. And then you gotta play some quiz show to figure out who the real one is. This is a joke sequence, but I love it, it's so good. You have to ask these questions to deduce who the real Merle is. And what I like about it is that, yeah, clearly Mimi's trying to impersonate Merle, but you can still get hints of Mimi peeping through these questions. Also, Merle's canonically pansexual. Based. There's no real penalty for guessing wrong, and you can easily identify Merle when you notice there's a fly swirling around the real one, but still, really funny sequence. But what's even more fun is this boss fight. It's a definite step up from Chapter 1. Unlike O-Chunks or Fractale, Mimi's hitbox is much smaller and somewhat elevated, so it's harder to just wail on her. Plus, Mimi herself has a lot more health and large-scale attacks, so it isn't just like an instant wash like the other two fights. But the real highlight of this fight is the build-up. This is more of an emotional thing, but you have no idea how much joy I felt finally taking down Mimi as a kid, after the hell that was 2-3. To give you an idea of how long I was stuck on that part of the game, in this playthrough my attack stat was 3. I had an attack stat of 6 as a kid. I was stuck on that level for so long, I had nothing to do but grind until I was like 5 or 6 levels ahead. It was really painful, dude. 2-3 really gives me fucking memories. Oh my god. But yeah, you beat Mimi, thank god. And Merle reveals a pure heart that's yellow in color. Yellow's negative aspects include ego, deceit, and fear, which are all representative of Mimi's character. Mimi clearly has a bit of an ego from all her self-praise. Her whole gimmick in this chapter and beyond is deceiving and tricking the main characters. And of course, fear is represented by... yeah, that. And as for what yellow represents as an aspect of love, okay, I'm gonna be real. I couldn't think of anything. Any kind of positive potential meaning that I could find was like kind of the same as red and orange. And I couldn't really see how Chapter 2 tied into the idea of love. Not to say Chapter 2 was bad, far from it. It had some great experimental stuff and actually surpassed Chapter 1 in a lot of ways. But yeah, I just can't think of anything love-related for this. You know, for the sake of completion, I'm gonna say Chapter 2's theme is sex. Because Mimi kind of a freak, not gonna lie, like... Damn! Aw, sick! Luigi! Man, I can't wait to play as him. I hope nothing happens to him that causes me to not be able to play as him until the end portion of the game. Mario!
happen?
Yes, my father caught me. Sneaking out of the castle wasn't easy after that.
I was worried you wouldn't come.
You are a strange girl. You know what I am, and yet you do not seem afraid.
I don't care what you are. I just wanted to see you. Is that so wrong?
No, of course not. I wanted to see you too.
Lumiere, do you mind if I sit next to you?
Please do, Timpani. Let's return to our conversation. I must know more of you.
Little thing, I like this little bit that foreshadows Luigi's importance to the plot. So after Chapter 2, things really open up. If I were to talk about everything new that appears in Flipside right now, that whole section would probably be longer than some of the chapters. So for now, I'm going to talk about my man, Garrison. Don't overlook Garrison. He is so important. This man contains an entire treasure trove of lore that I did not even know existed until I looked at the wiki. Basically, you pay him 5 coins and he'll tell you a story. Back then, even in this playthrough, I just wrote him off as an NPC that gives you like generic game tips. But no, man, I was so wrong. Garrison's first few stories are, just things you already know, but then he starts telling you secret locations, how Flipside was created by the Ancients as a central hub between dimensions, how the pixels were actually constructs made by the Ancients, and that the ones we have are the few remaining original pixels, and how Merlin had a crush on Saffron, and the story of Merlin helping an injured girl that foreshadows Tippy's origins. Hell, Garrison's speeches were the reason I was able to decide on a theme for Chapter 1, since he talks about passion the Ancients used to have. This game had a whole different dimension that completely flew under my radar for years. I assumed all this stuff was mostly kept to Garrison because they couldn't fit in the main story, but just still, wow. Honestly, these stories are just really cool. They really pique my imagination and serve as a great context and world-building tool. But yeah, Garrison's based onto... Hey, stealing is against the law! But yeah, Tippy gets stolen by this dude Francis.
I'm coming after you.
No, not that Francis, sorry. And you gotta go to save them. So this level's pretty good, actually. I honestly can't say much about the level design that wouldn't be a refresh of 1-1 or 2-1. However, what's really cool is that this level is like an homage to the original 1-1 from the original Super Mario Bros. Nothing crazy, but again, it's kinda cute. Also, there's this cool kaiju battle moment with this Koopa, but yeah. There's these magic Koopas, these soccer dudes who are really fun to fight because anytime they pop up, there's just like shells going everywhere. So we keep going and it turns out Bowser and a lot of his minions ended up here and he's turned this place into his lair and you gotta storm into his castle. It's a short but sweet sequence. Also, there's these bullet bills, which isn't a bad thing, but this is the only time in the entire game they make an appearance. I'm not just talking about the main story, you can't find them anywhere in the game, like no, not even like the optional content, which I find really strange that you program an enemy and only use it once. I don't know, that's just weird to me. I feel like it's kind of exemplary of an issue that this game has. There's a lot of enemies that I don't think get proper usage. I feel like this game's minute-by-minute gameplay would be marginally improved if they just played around more with enemies and like the variations that you deal with them with. Like, I don't know, just mix it up a bit more. Just give me more combinations to fight against, you know? Again, I'm not saying the combat isn't fun, I just think that it could be improved on easily. Then you get to fight the big man himself, and it's, there's just not much option in how you want to approach this fight. You can't jump or use throw, so you're backed into using boomer or attack items. I didn't have any items for a reason that I'll touch on later, so I was only able to use Boomer. Boomer's a fun tool to use, but he's designed to supplement the main jumping action, not replace it. Overall, I give this fight a 1000 Bowser Rule 34 images out of however many he has right now. I'll probably pop it up on screen. But it's okay, because we get Bowser dialogue. And whenever Bowser speaks in anything, it's always good, especially in Mario RPGs. Whenever I watch a political debate, I just imagine both of the parties as Bowser, and that makes it infinitely more fun to watch. I love how he's got his arms crossed and he's kind of like, no, I don't want to help Mario. And Peach calling Bowser a big sweetie, that gives me life. I think that gives anyone life. But yeah, you unlock Bowser and then move on to... water level. Hey, chill. Hey, ow! What the fuck, dude? Ow! Oh, hey, okay. Rune! Why are you booing me?
Societal pressure!
But yeah, this level holds the same issue as every other water level ever. It's just really really slow. It's helped a bit by Bowser's Flame Breath giving you more of a viable option for attack, unlike a lot of other water levels, and this boss with a giant blooper is cool, but besides that there isn't really much I can comment on. You do unlock a new pixel though, Thudley. He's pretty well balanced, he basically gives you a ground pound ability, so double the damage, but at the cost of waiting for the animation to finish. Simple but efficient and also good for this level since ground pounds work underwater. But yeah, there really isn't much to this chapter. On to this is one of the best levels in the game. It utilizes every ability you have, and the level design keeps all of them balanced. And by all of them I mean Bowser, and thank you God, because this man needs some balancing. So yeah, this man is just too strong. Like, look, why did they give him double attack damage for every jump he does? Like, you know, maybe 1.5 times more, but double is just, no, that's too much. Give those bosses a break, man. And the Flame Breath, he already has double jump damage. Why'd you then have to give him a ranged multi-hit option? Why? There's something called too much, and you guys gave it in full. The one thing that keeps him in check is his speed and hitbox. Alright, so he's crippled the game's balance, but he hasn't sent it into a coma yet. Oh man, I really hope there isn't some sort of in-game ability that removes the one limiting factor he has. But yeah, back on the positive track, this level is awesome. Every ability you have is used to the fullest extent. Even Slim, and again, I'm serious when I say this guy is used like 4 times in the game, and 2 of those times were in this level. But hey, this second use of him was cool, but sorry Slim, maybe after you scrubbed all the floors in Hyrule, then we can talk about using you more than once every 3 chapters. Also, I like this part where you gotta use Boomer as a timed explosive so you can get up to this platform in time for the switch to be blown up, causing these platforms to appear. It's been almost a decade and I still feel like Megamind every time I do that. Alright, it's simple, but it's so good. One comparison I like to draw is Super Paper Mario's puzzle design to Portal's. Portal doesn't actually introduce too many mechanics when you really think about it, but the few mechanics there are have been used to the fullest. Meanwhile, Super Paper Mario has the inverse. There's a good chunk of abilities to choose from, but their uses tend to be much more shallow. On the surface this sounds bad, and it kinda is. Mainly there are some abilities that get used extensively, while others just get left in the dust. But the idea of simpler puzzles isn't something I consider a flaw. Super Paper Mario isn't Portal. While puzzles are part of the game, they aren't the main focus and are simplified. In an adventure game like Super Paper Mario, I'd argue the core gameplay like combat and puzzles is actually more of a leg for the story and those wackier memorable moments. It's more about carrying the player's interest until the next big moment that comes from the story of the characters. At least that's how I like to view it. The game utilizes what I like to call keychain puzzle design. There aren't so many moments where I'm pondering for like 30 minutes on how to solve this part. It's usually just, oh, here's this area, pixel thing, do your life's purpose, and it's done. But I feel like 3-3 utilizes keychain puzzle design beautifully. It not only uses these seemingly shallow mechanics to their fullest, but I never lingered on them for too long. It's filled with all those great aha moments, and yeah, that's cool moments you get with puzzles, without the mind-numbing process of waiting for the answer to pop in your head. There is one thing holding this level back, and actually it's something that I was praising it for earlier, and that's how it treats Bowser. With his low mobility and huge hitbox, it makes him pretty ill-equipped to deal with these wall-crawly things, the amazy-daisy shooting sleep projectiles from above, the platforming. He can't even use the ladders. Even the boss fight with Dimentio has this problem. He's in the air and shoots projectiles from above, so you really have to use Mario or Peach. Besides that, this fight is great. Dimentio himself is just a cool villain. He kind of reminds me of Fawful in a way. Both of these great, verbose, entertaining villains whose affiliations are somewhat questionable. Fawful's still better though, but hey, Dimentio's still cool. He's still pretty good. The fight itself is pretty good too, since Dimentio takes the high ground a lot during the fight and makes it harder to jump on him, and I like his sudden bursts of movement. But yeah, 3-3 is an awesome level. Kinda wish it utilized Bowser a bit more well, but that's just like the entire game. So yeah, you ride this red wind thing and move on to... Remember when I said I liked Chapter 2 because it explored Mimi's character? Well, 3-4 is that, but times 100. This whole level is about one character, Francis. I'm not just talking about the dialogue. Every single bit of this level, from the dialogue, the visuals, and the other characters, tell us about Francis's character. He's got these little cat robots that remind him about his favorite shows. All the enemies in these areas are like little cat robots. His room is filled to the brim with geeky posters and fun nods to the past games. And the only way to actually get into his room is to play as Peach and answer a bunch of his dumbass questions. This whole level is just filled to the brim with personality, and that's not even to mention how perfect this level is at critiquing internet fandom culture. I have bought games I have never played. I love going on message boards and complaining about games I have never played. True fans care about important stuff like that. This was in 2009. This shouldn't hold up as well as it does. The idea that Francis is such a loser that he's created an isolated castle with nothing but robot cat AI that parrot back all his exact opinions and the pixels that he's captured as company is just a great way of showing his character through setting. Oh yeah, speaking of pixels, you unlock Carrie. And at first, Carrie is awesome, dude. You get to go faster, so you get better movement speed, you can ignore spikes, you can jump on spiked enemies. She's probably the best pixel in the game, and from this point on, is probably one of the most versatile pixels in combat. The one you'll have the most out everywhere else. It's just, come on, Carrie's the best. And I mean, faster movement speed alone is just crazy good. Not much can top that. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of the game's balance slowly flatlining. You know, not even slowly, just the car of game balance has gone off the cliff. Like, okay, that's enough car crashing sounds. All right. Because reminder that it's not just Peach and Mario who can use Carrie. Bowser can too. Let me remind you that Bowser's only weaknesses were a big hitbox and low mobility. With Carrie, Bowser is now faster than Mario was. You have double damage, a ranged attack, all with insane movement speed, and at that point the hitbox is like, does it really matter as much? No, it doesn't. Like, why the hell would you give your characters clear boundaries and limitations, and then introduce an ability, very early on I might add, that completely shatters those boundaries? It makes no sense. Like, it's so bad, for most of the game I actually had to stop myself from playing as Bowser for a lot of it, because he was just too good. Bosses would be like completely destroyed if I used Bowser. I mean, I'd use him sometimes when I'm just dealing with regular enemies, but he just obliterates bosses. I just feel gross using him. He's too good. But yeah, you get some keys and you open the door to Francis's Cumgen to save Tippy from the nut jar. And honestly, there's no edit or funny bit I can add to this next part. Francis can't talk to Peach, so instead he pulls out his computer and runs a simulation, and it turns the game into a dating sim, like an actual dating sim. I love this whole bit just so much. You can either have Peach be all cutesy and like, you know, submissive. I'm not gonna say the second word. I know what you guys think the second word is. I'm not gonna say it, alright? No. Or you can just tell Francis to off himself at every single turn. I love how even when you choose the nice dialogue options, Francis still makes the situation like completely uncomfortable. And I love how you can see Francis' thought process through how he moves the cursor. That moment where he just stays on the smooch button for like 5 seconds before changing his mind, that's comedy gold. Come on. That is comedy gold. That's like top 5 in like the world. The fight with him is fun too. It's mostly like a game of hide and seek, trying to catch him before he turns invisible again, while he also lets his cats attack you. That and also Vor. Simple, fun, and definitely fitting for his character running away like that. So you save Tippy, and she's so overwhelmed with joy. So overwhelmed that she actually creates a Pure Heart. Now this one is green in color, which actually gives us a lot to work with. Some of the particular positive traits of the color green are growth and revitalization or rebirth. I feel like at the end of this chapter, we see rebirth or revitalization and simultaneous growth of Tippy's character. Before, Tippy was more of a tool than a character, who mostly was just there to say things in Mario's place. But here, it feels like she's actually come back to life. What was once almost a husk of a person is brought back. You didn't realize it, but Tippy up to this point was very distant. But when Mario and the others gave her a taste of genuine companionship, it revives her. And Tippy doesn't just grow. I personally feel like the whole group kind of became more solid after this. I think this feeling comes more from like Bowser joining the group. It's more the idea that Mario and Peach were kind enough to welcome Bowser into the group even after their long history. That, and also Bowser was willing to join of his own accord and consciousness. If this group can do that, then it gives the impression that their bond has truly grown over the course of this chapter. And as well, this whole moment sets into motion Tippy's real character arc for the story. If I had to choose a theme for this chapter, it'd be friendship and trust. This Pure Heart, after all, is a product of the group's friendship and trust. Tippy being reborn from seeing Mario and Peach's trust and genuine care for her, and Mario and Bowser joining and trusting in one another despite their differences are two big examples of this theme at play in this chapter. However, one character who embodies the inverse of what I just talked about is Francis. The negative aspects of Green include judgmentalism, envy, materialism, and inexperience. Francis's inexperience in social settings is of course a big part in his lack of friendship. but also it's his judgmentalism. The few people he talks to online, he pushes them away due to his own judgy and shallow nature. He can't make friends with people who are basically the same as him. Meanwhile, Mario, both in this game and outside the game, is in a group of people who are anything but the same as him. Francis simply lacks the trust in anyone who isn't a carbon copy of himself or some blank canvas idealized version of a pet or girlfriend. So he thinks, if I can't join them, beat them, and he uses his vast materialism as a way to try and make people envy him. You can see this mostly in his online peer group, who he always tries to best. You know, with his, oh, I'm a better fan than you, oh, I have more stuff than you. He's always trying to beat them, trying to make them envy him. We see this time and time again, always talking about his comics or action figures as a way to impress or show to others, to the point where his materialism consumes his entire personality. And of course, it doesn't work. Anyone who's past elementary school knows having a bunch of cool stuff can't replace genuine camaraderie. And Francis also happens to be the inverse of two of Green's most positive aspects, nature and growth. Nature is the fact, well, he'd probably burn alive if he went outside the sun bare skin, but also, after this, he never showcases any growth. You have multiple opportunities to encounter him again, but as always, he's always wallowing in his own materialism. But yeah, that was a whole half page on analyzing a character who's basically this neckbeard meme from 2007. Also, I haven't really talked about them much, but I love these little interludes where you get to see the villains and what they're doing. They're all just really entertaining characters, and Count Bleck is a character I'll analyze more when we get closer to the end, but all I have to say for now is that he's a real fun guy. Also, Natasha's best girl, Queen, girl boss, onto... oh, wait. My Wiimote batteries need replacing. Hold on. Man, I can't believe I gotta leave the day after tomorrow morning. How much time do I have to pack anyways? Oh, hey, Alma. Nah, that can't be right. I mean, if I'm wrong... look, I'm wrong a lot, right? But I can't be wrong here, because if I'm wrong here, that means today is the last day I have time to spend in my home before I leave to a place I've never been to before. And if that happened, I'd probably go into some sort of psycho-catatonic age regressive state side plot for this video. Oh boy. Oh, no. Or maybe I don't have to go. Maybe I can just stay right where I am.
Part 2 is sometime. I don't know, dude. It took me like 8 months to make part 1, so I don't know. Just enjoy some smaller videos I have on the works. But to be continued. See ya.